No way they do this, as the Detroit Red Wings have been linked to one player in particular that makes no sense for them ahead of this year's trade deadline. And multiple insiders have reported that Steve Yzerman will be busy heading into the trade deadline as the Red Wings look to upgrade at multiple positions. We're going to break down exactly who this player is, why another player would be a better fit for the Red Wings heading into the playoffs, and why Steve Yzerman is going to be busy. We're going to break that all down in this episode of Red Wings Digest. But before we get into all of that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 98% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Red Wings, go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and you get to stay up to date with everything going on with the Red Wings. And a special thank you again to over 1,500 of you that have subscribed and continue to watch. Your support does not go unnoticed. But Mark, let's get right into it. There was a new article dropped by David Pagnotta and the Fourth Period on the trade watch list. There's a lot of names out there. Trocheck is another name. I just want to throw it out there. That does make a lot of sense. We've talked about it already on the channel for the Detroit Red Wings. Kyrou, Kadri, a couple other names as well. But there's one name that came up in conversation and being linked to the Detroit Red Wings, and that is from the Vancouver Canucks, Jake DeBrusk. And this one, to me, Mark, I don't know how you feel about it, doesn't make any sense for the Detroit Red Wings. There's some things I want to get to in terms of specifics as to why this doesn't make any sense later in the video, so stay tuned for that. But what do you make of this initial report from David Pagnotta?
I mean, the big thing is with Jake DeBrusk, who signed with the Vancouver Canucks just a couple of seasons ago, we're starting to see more reports come out from a team that's rebuilding. Of course, the Canucks are the worst team in the NHL, so they're looking to sell, but now it seems like not only does he want to change the scenery, we get the report that he's been linked to three teams, and of course, the Bruins, the Seattle Kraken, and the Detroit Red Wings. Now, the big thing with Jake DeBrusk, of course, is you're acquiring a player. We're going to dive into some things that are probably not the greatest to add to this team with Jake DeBrusk. But the big thing is you get a low cap hit guy, $5.5 million, that is going to be on this team for the next 5 seasons after this year. And Darius, when looking at the stats, of course, a lot of this does look good. You're in the green with a lot, the points, the goals, the assists. But there is a big question around his 5-on-5 production. But just looking at Jake DeBrusk, we know the stats. We know this is a guy that's one of those kind of modern day power forwards, a guy that's going to be a little physical, that can pot you goals. He's a streaky player. What is your initial thoughts before we really dive into this guy on does he fit this lineup moving forward, not only for this playoff run, but for the years to come?
I'm not sure. And like you said, he has term. He signed a couple of years ago with the Vancouver Canucks. Him being linked to the Bruins, by the way, is absolutely rich. That is hilarious. But also linked to Detroit Red Wings. Lengthy amount of time left on the contract. He's 29 years old. Trade stipulations on the contract as well. So I think that could be a tricky situation. The one thing for me, and I want to throw this, back to you as a question, and everyone in the comments below as well, let us know. The Red Wings, it's no surprise. When you look at, his stats, if you were to add a player like this, it's no surprise that the Red Wings so far this year, the biggest question mark and the biggest thing that I think will be a roadblock for them come playoff time is how bad, how abysmal this team is 5-on-5 this season. They are so good on special teams, but they are really tough to look at 5-on-5, and the stats are not pretty. And heading into the playoffs, they got to fix that because you're not going to be saved by any power plays or anything like that heading into the playoffs. And this player, Jake DeBrusk, is also, and it could have something to do, and this is my question to you, Mark, it could have something to do with the team that he's playing on, is also a horrible 5-on-5 player. So is it the team that he's playing on? Is he a terrible 5-on-5 player? And not only that, too, I pose the question, he's not a center. He's not a defenseman. We know what this team's needs are. Why would you add on the wing again? I mean, I think this is a player that could be in some ways effective for this team, but not over positions of need that you need to fill first.
And I think if you want to bring this up to a full screen to really dive into Jake DeBrusk, when looking at this season, you can see just 2 goals at 5-on-5, which does not fit the Red Wings. We know this is a team that is struggling, but looking at Jake DeBrusk last year, 28 goals. We've seen seasons with 25, 27 goals. This is a guy that's very streaky. We've seen it with the Boston Bruins all the way to Vancouver. You get on the hot streak, and this guy looks like one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. Then he goes 12 games with no points. Yes, this is a very interesting one. Looking at the thing, if you have a 30 goal scorer in Jake DeBrusk making $5.5 million, that is a steal moving into a cap world where $10 million each season is being added to the teams, while the Red Wings already have a bunch of space. I mean, Darius, looking at the contracts right now, you're going into next offseason with 37 million. The year after, 72. Yes, you need to sign a lot of people, but with Patrick Kane and JVR are getting older, it feels like the perfect segue of, hey, we're losing 2 veteran players. Maybe they come back on cheap deals, but listen, Father Time is undefeated. It's one of those situations, it's a big gamble. You're looking at Jake DeBrusk, again, a guy that has not only struggled, but looking at the Vancouver Canucks, the center depth, the injuries they've dealt with, a new head coach for the first year. This is a team that is the reason why they're last in the entire NHL and been out of the playoff spot for what feels like months. But this is a team that had no production at forward. So I don't want to blame Jake DeBrusk as the sole reason of his production dropping. Of course, the shooting percentage is not looking great. Power play, he's incredible. He's a specialist. You can see the numbers there, ranked in the top 10 when it comes to power play points and goals. But I think at the end of the day, you want a center. Like you said, you're looking at the bigger picture of this team, adding down the middle. Of course, you don't want to go out and give up the entire farm to land a guy. Trocheck, we touched on before, and at the start of this video is a very interesting option. But Darius, I tend to agree with you. It doesn't really make sense on the Red Wings side unless you're looking at this guy and saying, hey, we think we can get something out of him. We're going to take the risk if it's a small asking price to bring in a struggling player. But I think the risk is almost too rich for the Red Wings at this point.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Even if you are paying a small price, which I imagine it would be because he is struggling. But like you mentioned, if you can pop up his stats again, there's a lot to like about this player, right? Power play specialist, if you want to put it that way. I don't know if that helps this team at this point. Your power play is pretty good still. I mean, if you want to add to it, I guess you could, as long as you're adding, a guy that doesn't cost that much. Now, he also is a dog in the playoffs. We know that, right? Like when he is in the playoffs, he's an absolute dog. This is a guy that I think can help you win. He gets around the net. He does score some clutch goals. He did it in the past for the Bruins. He takes a lot of shots as well. I think that's something that we can't, gloss over or anything like that. He takes a ton of shots. But if you look at his contract too, it's a little bit too much in terms of 5.5. I know the cap is going up, but a little bit too much for a guy that is horrible 5-on-5. Is good on the power play, but you have a lot of weapons anyway. Would he even play on power play 1? Would you put him on power play 1, right? And he's got a ton of years left. He's got 5 years left on his deal as well, so that's something you got to consider. Yes, the cap's going up, but then you're going to be stuck with a contract like that. So he could be had for cheap, but I just don't know if he helps in the areas that the Red Wings actually need help in, if they're not addressing any of their weaknesses by making a trade like this. Now, again, he could help in the playoffs. Maybe it would work out. Maybe we could eat our words, or everyone who thinks this is a bad idea could eat their words, right? Because I'm not necessarily putting you into that, Mark. But I think that I don't know if this makes sense for the Red Wings. I think you want to fill and address a lot more of the weaknesses first heading into the playoffs, because it does look like this team is going to end up in the playoffs.
And I think the big thing is, listen, if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I think DeBrusk would be an option that you could go out, you could get. You could hope that 5.5 is really going to look like a darling contract with a raising capital. You get a middle 6 guy to join this group to fill in the spot for Patrick Kane. Yes, it takes up a spot for a lot of young guys coming through the system, but you know what you get with Jake DeBrusk. But one option I think is very interesting with the Canucks, and listen, when looking at the stats, a lot of the numbers look good on Teddy Blueger. Of course, this is super inflated, only playing in 8 games for the Vancouver Canucks, but Teddy Blueger from Latvia, who was just at the Olympics, is an interesting one. When looking at the reports for Teddy Blueger going into this video, he called out the Vancouver Canucks on their lack of play. He's showing leadership. This is the type of guy that is a small cap, and I believe it's sub 2 million. So getting him on the roster, Darius, as center, yes, the faceoff percentage at sub 50%, though he's playing in a higher role than he should because the Canucks are not a good team. Is this more intriguing for you? A guy that you can bring in that has played and won a Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. Do you think going out to give up maybe a mid to late round pick for Teddy Blueger, the pending UFA center, fits this team more?
I think this one could make some more sense. He's a center, right? Then you're addressing a position of need. To me, also, I don't know if he moves the needle as a center for this group, right? You're just adding another guy into the mix. So I don't know if he would move the needle, but great numbers, small sample size, of course, but great numbers. He can obviously take draws, not the greatest, but like you said, he's playing against tougher competition because the Canucks are that bad, and he's higher up in the lineup than maybe he should be on another team. But again, I think that you would just be adding this guy to another group, another collection of guys at center for this group. I wonder if you go out and you get a needle mover like a Vincent Trocheck, for example, or somebody else. But great numbers, small sample size. But we want to hear what you have to say. in the comments down below. Where would you add on the Red Wings? What do you think of the report from David Pagnotta linking Jake DeBrusk to the Red Wings? What do you think of Teddy Blueger? I think it's an interesting idea as well, Mark, because obviously he's in a position of need for the Red Wings, and great numbers, small sample size, but I think that the playoffs can be a small sample size as well. So let us know how you feel in the comments below, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Red Wings.